The waves crashed softly against the wooden posts of the Santa Monica Pier, their rhythmic hush blending with the laughter of tourists and the distant cry of seagulls. The late afternoon sun cast long golden rays across the boardwalk, painting the air with warmth and calm. It was one of those days that felt perfect, when the sea breeze carried a hint of salt and freedom, and strangers smiled at each other simply because life felt good. But for one girl, that day would become a memory she would never forget. Iska was 16, quiet and gentle. Her wheelchair rolled slowly along the pier's wooden planks as she looked out toward the endless Pacific. She loved the sea, not because it made her feel small, but because it made her feel part of something larger. She had been coming there since she was a child, ever since her father used to lift her onto his shoulders to watch the sunset. After he passed away, the pier became her safe place, a corner of the world where she could breathe freely. That afternoon, she was alone. Her mother was running late from work, so Iska decided to wait by the railing watching street performers in the rolling waves. She wore her favorite denim jacket, the one with little patches she'd sewn on herself, a sunflower, a lightning bolt, and a patch that said strong inside. But life, as it often does, has a way of testing the strong. 3 boys around her age approached from behind, laughing and shoving each other. They had that careless energy of youth mixed with arrogance, the kind that made them believe the world existed for their amusement. One of them pointed at Iska's wheelchair, nudging his friend. "Move, Cripple," he shouted, kicking the back wheel. The words sliced through the air like a knife. A few heads turned, but no one intervened. People assumed someone else would. They always do. Iska froze. Her hands trembled on the metal rims of her chair. The laughter grew louder as another boy pushed her lightly, enough to make her lose balance. Her bag fell to the ground. The coins she had saved for ice cream scattered across the pier, glinting in the sunlight like tiny, broken hopes. She looked up at them. Not with anger, not even fear, but with quiet disbelief. Why, she wondered. Why would anyone want to be cruel to someone who had done nothing wrong? The first boy laughed, stepping closer. "What, can't even say thank you?" He sneered, mocking her silence. Something inside her wanted to scream, to fight back. But before she could find the strength to speak, a deep, distant sound began to rise. At first, it was just a murmur, a low rumble beneath the ocean breeze. Then it grew louder, heavier, closer. The unmistakable growl of engines filled the air, echoing off the buildings and the waves. Every head turned. From the far end of the pier, a group of motorcycles appeared. A dozen, maybe more. The riders wore leather jackets and heavy boots, their faces half hidden behind dark visors. The sunlight flashed off chrome and steel as they rolled closer in a tight formation. Engines thundering like an approaching storm. The bullies stepped back, uncertainty creeping across their faces. The bikes slowed to a stop just a few feet away. The riders cut their engines, and suddenly, the pier was silent again, except for the faint crash of waves and the soft ticking of cooling engines. One of the bikers, a tall woman with a silver braid and a jacket that read Iron Wings, stepped forward. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of authority. "Something wrong here?" she asked, her eyes sharp. No one answered. The boys shifted uncomfortably. One tried to laugh it off. "No, we were just joking around." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Joking? Looks like someone forgot what funny means." Behind her, the other bikers dismounted, men and women of all ages, from grizzled veterans to young riders. Some had tattoos, others carried helmets with stickers that read, "Ride for Respect." They formed a semicircle around the scene, their presence alone enough to make the bullies shrink. Iska looked up, eyes wide. She didn't know who they were or why they had stopped. She only knew that for the first time in that long minute she felt safe. Another biker, an older man with a thick beard, crouched down beside her and gently picked up her scattered coins. He placed them back into her bag, his movements careful and respectful. "You okay, kid?" he asked. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. I think so." The man smiled softly. "Good. You're tougher than you look." The leader turned back to the boys. "You think picking on someone weaker makes you strong?" she said, her voice low and steady. "You're lucky we got here when we did. People like you forget something important. Real strength isn't about power. It's about protection." The boys said nothing, One of them muttered an apology, but it was barely audible. They backed away, faces flushed with shame before turning and running down the pier. The bikers didn't chase them. They didn't have to. The lesson had already been delivered. For a long moment, silence hung in the air again. Then the leader crouched down next to Iska's wheelchair, her tone softening. "Don't let them take your spirit, sweetheart," she said. "People like that are small. But you're bigger than they'll ever be." Iska smiled weakly. "Who are you?" The woman grinned. "Friends. Call us the Iron Wings." They helped her pick up the rest of her things. A few of the bikers started chatting with her. One offered her a keychain shaped like a tiny motorcycle. Another complimented her jacket patches. Slowly, the fear drained from her chest, replaced by a strange glowing warmth. Within minutes, laughter returned to the pier, but this time, it came from a place of healing. The Iron Wings stayed with Iska until her mother arrived. When her mother saw the group of leather-clad bikers gathered around her daughter, she froze, worried. But Iska smiled brightly, something she hadn't done in weeks. "Mom," she said, "these are my new friends." Her mother's eyes welled up with tears of gratitude. She thanked them again and again, but the riders simply waved it off. "Just doing what's right," one said. Before leaving, the leader leaned down once more. "You ever come here again and feel unsafe," she said, "you just call us. The Iron Wings always have your back." They revved their engines one by one, the sound rolling across the water like thunder. People stopped to watch as the group rode off into the setting sun, a line of guardians disappearing into the horizon. That night, Iska sat by her window at home, looking at the keychain they had given her. It wasn't just a trinket. It was a symbol. Proof that kindness still existed in the world. That courage could come from unexpected places, and that strength wasn't about walking or running. It was about standing tall in spirit. She hung the keychain on her wheelchair handle and whispered softly, "Thank you." Days turned into weeks and the story began to spread. Someone had filmed the incident on their phone, and soon it went viral. The video showed everything. The bullies' cruelty, the arrival of the bikers, and that final moment when they surrounded Iska like a living shield. Millions watched it. Comments poured in from around the world. Messages of support, admiration, and outrage. People called Iska brave, and the Iron Wings became local heroes. But when reporters tried to interview them, their leader simply said, "We're not heroes. We just remember what it means to be human." The attention faded after a while, as all viral stories do, but the impact lingered. At the Santa Monica Pier, a small group of locals started a community initiative, Wheels of Respect. It brought together bikers, skateboarders, and people with disabilities to promote kindness and awareness. They organized rides, fundraisers, and beach cleanups, and every event began with the same message. Real strength means lifting others. Iska joined them whenever she could. She spoke at schools, telling her story not with bitterness, but with hope. "Those boys tried to break me," she said in one speech, "but instead, they helped me find my voice." Her words inspired many, not just people with disabilities, but anyone who had ever been made to feel small or powerless. One afternoon, about a year after the incident, Iska returned to the pier. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. She rolled to the same spot where it had all happened and smiled. She could still hear the echo of engines in her memory, that deep, defiant roar that had changed everything. And though the bikers weren't there, she felt them, their strength, their kindness, their spirit, surrounding her like invisible wings. Somewhere far away, on an open highway, the Iron Wings were still riding. Their engines growled against the wind, carrying with them stories like hers. Stories of courage, compassion, and justice. They didn't know how many lives they'd touched. They didn't keep count. For them, every act of kindness was just another mile on the road. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, its final light shimmered on the ocean, turning the waves into liquid gold. Iska whispered into the wind, "I'll never forget you." The wind carried her words out to sea, and perhaps, somewhere down the coast, the Iron Wings heard them in the hum of their engines. Because that's how goodness travels, unseen, unstoppable, eternal. It starts with one small act of courage, one moment of standing up when others stay silent. It begins with someone who chooses kindness when cruelty seems easier. That day on the pier, the world saw something rare. Not a fight, not revenge, but protection born from compassion. A sea of bikers who didn't ride in to be heroes, but simply refused to let injustice pass by. And a girl named Iska, who proved that even in a world that sometimes feels heartless, hope still rolls forward, one wheel turn at a time. The ocean keeps its